What's up, guys? It's Patricia from TarantulaHeaven.com, and I have Spidey here, who's been sitting in the same position for quite a while, so I don't know if she's going to move for you, hopefully. Ava, my jealous cat, is also right here, and she's probably going to jump on the couch or on the table or something at some point during this video. But anyway, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, I put out tarantula videos every single week, whether it's tarantula education or something fun that my spiders did, or other fun topics. I love tarantulas, and I like to just share things that I'm learning or things that I find interesting. So anyway, today we're going to talk about something that might be very, I hope, reassuring for beginners, because we were all beginners once, so I think that this stuff is extremely important. So this is going to be about how to notice if your tarantula is going to molt. Tarantula molting is something that deeply concerns beginners. I get a lot of messages at least a few times a month about a new tarantula owner who's really concerned because their tarantula isn't eating, or it's on its back and they have no idea what the hell is going on. They think it's dead. And I think that if you're a part of any tarantula Facebook group, there are multiple people asking these questions every single day. So I think that, we got to talk about it, and we have to spread education about why this happens and why you don't have to freak out immediately. So there are so many things to learn when you're getting a tarantula, because it's just so different from any other pet. Everyone knows how to take care of a cat or dog because it's so common, but when you go into the world of arachnids, it's totally a different thing. So among many other things that you need to learn about, you need to learn the signs of Premolt. And this Premolt is the period that a tarantula goes into before they're going to molt or shed their exoskeleton. So there's kind of like two stages of Premolt. I saw a video on Tom's Big Spiders, who is a great resource, Tom Moran of Tom's Big Spiders, if you are looking for more detailed husbandry stuff about different species or just great tarantula information in general. And he kind of described Premolt in two stages, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really cool. So the first one is basically like general Premolt, and then there's advanced Premolt, and that's like the one that's more close to the actual molting, and it's definitely like your tarantula is going to molt any day now. So first we're going to start at general Premolt, and this is where tarantula owners, especially new ones, start to get worried or suspect that something might be wrong. So the biggest sign is that your tarantula stops eating. Maybe you're putting in food items in the tank, and a tarantula that might have eaten before all of a sudden stops. And I will mention that when you do get a new tarantula, it's normal for them to stop eating, just because anytime you change something about a tarantula's surroundings, they're really neurotic and like nerdy and stressed out creatures, very anxious. So it usually takes them a little while to settle down. So just because your tarantula stops eating just when you first bought it or isn't eating doesn't necessarily mean that it's in Premolt. It could just mean that it's really stressed out and trying to settle in. So don't be alarmed about that. But if your tarantula was eating before and then it stops eating, that's a sign that it might be in Premolt. And while your tarantula is refusing food, it might actually attack the food. It might strike at it, but it just won't eat it. So that's something to look out for, definitely. I should also note that some tarantula species, especially ones like Spidey right here, who is a Georzea, are infamous for not eating. Certain species of spiders, especially Georzea, do this thing called fasting, where they'll refuse food for a very long period of time. And just to share my own experience, Spidey has fasted for like 80% of the time that I've had her. She has gone well over a year without eating once, and it was not about Premolt at all. So if you have a Georzea, definitely take this into account. This is something that you might have to just get used to. It's something that stressed me out greatly my first few years with her, and now I've just kind of come to accept that this is just what she does, and she's fine. She has gone maybe a year and a half without eating, and then just randomly decided to start eating again. And it wasn't connected to a molt or anything. She's an adult, so she goes several years without molting now. She's pretty old, actually. So it might not be Premolt if you have a tarantula like that. I think in the tarantula world, the Georzea is probably the one that's the most infamous for that. I'm not sure if there are any other species that have major fasting periods like that. Generally, tarantulas are pretty good eaters, I think. besides that species. So if you know any more that that do fast a lot, maybe the more experienced tarantula owners can leave some species in the comments if you guys can think of any. So yeah, unless you have a Chilean rosehair, not eating for a period of time is usually a good sign that your tarantula is in the early stages of premolt. Another sign is that your tarantula is moving much slower and is more like lethargic and lazy than normal. They might also spend more time in their den or in their hide. They might kind of get a little bit secretive or burrow or something like that. I will say that especially tarantulas like Spidey are very lazy and they don't move a lot. So for some tarantulas that might be normal, but if your tarantula is more lethargic than usual, that's definitely a sign. Some tarantula owners have even noticed that if their tarantula usually climbs their tank, they will all of a sudden not really be able to. Like some people have said that like the stickiness of their feet tends to, it looks like it's not working as well as it was as they get closer to a molt. So that's something to look for. And then another really obvious sign is that the color of the abdomen will change. So as they get closer to a molt, their abdomen will usually look a lot more plump. It's going to darken in coloration, and it might even look a little bit more bald. And slings tend to look a bit shiny on their abdomens as they're getting closer to a molt. And now when a tarantula gets closer to the time that they're actually going to molt, they start showing signs of advanced premolt, and this can look like maybe they have clear fluids coming out of their joints where like their joints meet. You might notice some fluid leaking out of there. Their abdomen is going to get even more darker and more obvious that something's definitely going on, and that's because the hairs and the exoskeleton is really starting to form and come closer to needing to come out. Your tarantula might get even more secretive, so they might like do something like close off their burrow or their den. They might, put webs over it or dirt over it so that you can't see them or bother them. And then the most obvious sign of all that your tarantula is going to molt any day now or second or hour, whatever, is the appearance of the molting mat. So the molting mat is like this very thick web that your tarantula is going to start working very hard on. Possibly for a few hours, and this is basically what they will use to lay down on, flip over on, and molt on. So once you start seeing your tarantula making a molting mat, a molt is definitely coming. And in my experience, spiders don't waste time after the molting mat is finished. They don't take a break after the molting mat or anything. When Spidey has done this, she gets right to it. So once they feel like their molting mat is ready and they're good to go, they go right into a molt. So if you're seeing these signs, especially the molting mat, I would definitely suggest that if there are any prey items that are alive in the tank, you need to take those out right away. Do not offer any prey when your tarantula is in the advanced stages of premolt. Because when your tarantula is molting, it is absolutely defenseless. And there have been so many reports of a tarantula owner suffering the loss of their tarantula because they left a cricket or a worm or cockroach in there and they attacked the tarantula while it was helpless and defenseless. So this is why you want to be really careful about monitoring your tarantula and catching these signs so that we can avoid accidents from happening. You also want to make sure that while there's no food around, you do want to make sure that there is a water dish that has water in it in the tank. This helps with humidity. It helps them have a easier, healthier molt. And your tarantula has worked very, very hard. They're going to need water and to rehydrate very soon after the molt. So it's really, really important. Water is critical for tarantulas, especially after molting. So you want to make sure that they have access to water, not only to help them to do the molt, but to also replenish their health or their energy after they're done. And most importantly, do not disturb. I know that it is incredibly stressful to see your tarantula on its back for the first time, but I want to assure you that it doesn't mean it's dead. There's probably nothing wrong in most cases. And your tarantula, unless you suspect that it's stuck in the molt, or something's going wrong, which usually doesn't happen, you do not need to be in the tank for any reason. Do not open the tank, do not move things around. You don't want to stress your tarantula out any more than it already is in doing the molting process. And anything that you do during this time in the tank with them, it could be fatal for your tarantula. Accidents happen, so you want to just wait it out. And for some tarantulas, this process takes a really long time. Just because it's taking a few hours doesn't mean that your tarantula's having a bad molt. I've had to learn this, especially for older tarantulas like Spidey. She has taken well over 16 hours to molt. And, you know, yes, it's incredibly stressful, but I have to wait, and she's been fine every time. So if you have an older tarantula, don't freak out if this takes a whole day. That's pretty normal. So don't, you know, think that it's stuck and try to rescue it, because you might actually do more harm than good. I think for more experienced tarantula owners, you can usually sense when something's really going wrong. But I would say that for new tarantula owners, it's pretty rare that you're going to have a tarantula, especially if it's young, that's going to have a molting problem. Although slings do tend to be pretty fragile, I think slings have a higher mortality rate than, like, I guess a normal age tarantula, average age tarantula. But sometimes you just gotta let spiders be spiders and just trust that they know what they're doing. But anyway, I hope that that helps you recognize the signs of premolt, so that it's not so alarming when your tarantula does something that is actually very normal for them. You know, food refusal is nothing really to be worried about, because tarantulas can actually go a very long period without eating, and they'll be totally fine as long as they have water. So, you know, it's usually primo, but it might not be, and it's okay either way. Tarantulas will be fine. They're very hardy creatures, and, you know, they have their own body rhythms too with the seasons and stuff. So there could be multiple reasons why your tarantula isn't eating. But at least hopefully now that you've been a little bit more educated about premolt, it won't be such a concern to you. Especially if your tarantula flips on its back, you won't be so worried. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this and want to learn more about tarantula education and facts and behavior and stuff like that, definitely subscribe. I put out movies every single week, and I also have a Tarantula Tuesday newsletter that comes out every Tuesday, where I share more stuff about Blinky and Spidey and just my life with my pets. So you can subscribe to that in the link at the description below. And thanks for watching. I will see you guys next week. Bye.